When you hear Studio Ghibli, you probably think of magical forests, fantastical creatures, and food so well animated that it's practically its own genre. But there's another side to Ghibli that I don't see or hear talked about very often. It's a darker and more unsettling layer that often gets overlooked. Beneath all of the whimsy and the charm lies something deeply visceral: body horror. It's subtle, and it's often wrapped up in these metaphors, but it's there, and it's waiting to unsettle you in ways that you didn't even realize a beautiful cartoon could. Today, you and I are going to dive into the hidden body horror of three of Ghibli's most iconic films. We're going to explore what these grotesque transformations mean, why they're so effective, and how they shape the stories that they inhabit. If you're unfamiliar, I'm going to quickly run through a body horror synopsis here. At its core, body horror is about transformation. It's grotesque and unsettling changes to the human form, or sometimes non-human form too. It taps into primal fears about losing control over your body, being corrupted, or becoming something totally unrecognizable. Also, really quick, I'm not sure if it's Ghibli or Ghibli. I mean, of course I've done some research, but the internet seems to be divided on the subject, and I can't find a definitive answer. Admittedly, Ghibli is more fun to say, which means it's probably pronounced Ghibli, but let me know how you pronounce it. Anyway, now why is body horror so effective? It's because our bodies are the one thing that we cannot escape. When something invades, or mutates, or controls them, it's deeply personal. Studio Ghibli leverages this concept masterfully, combining it with rich symbolism to create moments that linger long after the credits roll. Let's start with Spirited Away. Arguably, one of the most well-known examples of Ghibli's use of body horror. Early in the film, Chihiro's parents gorge themselves on enchanted food and transform into pigs. The scene is grotesque, not just because of the physical change, but because it's immediate and is irreversible. Now, their transformation is the direct result of their greed and their lack of self-awareness. By giving in to their desires without considering the consequences, Chihiro's parents lose their humanity. Literally. This horrifying moment sets the tone for the entire film. Chihiro's journey is now not just about survival, but about reclaiming her parents' humanity. Their grotesque transformation becomes a constant reminder of what's at stake if she fails. But the body horror in Spirited Away doesn't stop there. Take No-Face, for example. He's shown to us as this quiet, almost lonely figure, but as he consumes more and more, his body starts to expand, and it's nasty. This transformation stems from unchecked greed and loneliness. No-Face's monstrous form is a physical manifestation of what happens when you try to fill emotional voids with material consumption. And this reinforces the film's overarching theme: losing yourself to excess, whether through greed, consumption, or emotional dependency. That all leads to self-destruction. Another iconic film in the Studio Ghibli catalog is Princess Mononoke. It leans even further into body horror to explore themes of corruption and environmental destruction. The film opens with a boar god named Nago, who's been cursed after being shot with an iron bullet. His body, once strong and majestic, is now consumed by this writhing black tendrils that ooze and pulsate like something straight out of a nightmare. Nago's grotesque transformation is the direct result of human interference, specifically the voice of industrialization. The bullet that wounds him is more than physical. It represents humanity's disregard for nature entirely. Nago's form becomes a horrifying warning of what happens when nature is violated. His wrath is relentless, not because he's evil, but because he's in agony. This sets the stage for the film's central conflict, which is the struggle between humanity's progress and nature's survival. The body horror doesn't stop with Nago, though. Ashitaka, the film's protagonist, is cursed after killing Nago in self-defense. His arm becomes infected with the same black tendrils, which grow more and more nasty as the journey progresses. Ashitaka's infection symbolizes the interconnectedness of human actions and their consequences. By engaging in violence, even in self-defense in this case, he becomes part of the cycle of destruction. The curse drives Ashitaka to seek balance between humans and nature, making his body a constant reminder of the stakes that are at hand. The visual horror of his infection reinforces the urgency of his mission. A third example of body horror in the Ghibli universe that I want to talk about comes from Howl's Moving Castle. Now, the body horror in this one takes on more of a metaphorical tone. Howl, this super-duper handsome wizard, undergoes a horrifying transformation whenever he uses his magic. Feathers replace his skin, claws extend from his hands, and his face becomes this hybrid of man and bird. Howl's transformation is the result of overusing his powers. His magic, while it's admittedly pretty damn cool, comes at a cost, which is the loss of his humanity. This horrifying change reflects the emotional toll of his internal struggles, his fear of commitment, and his guilt of his past actions, and his desperation to protect those that he loves. The body horror here serves as another physical manifestation of what's going on the inside, his inner turmoil, which makes it impossible for him and for us to ignore. Sophie's curse also fits into this framework as well. She's transformed into an old woman, and while her change isn't as grotesque, I'm going to try to stop using that word for the rest of the video. While it isn't as gross as Howl's, it's still a form of body horror. Sophie's transformation is tied to her self-doubt and her lack of confidence. The curse reflects how she views herself, which is powerless and insignificant. As Sophie grows emotionally, her curse begins to lift, which symbolizes the connection between self-perception and physical identity. So, you might be wondering, why does Studio Ghibli incorporate such, nasty depictions of body horror into its otherwise enchanting films? The answer lies in the cause and effect of these transformations. One, they're thematic. Every gross moment in this film serves a purpose. It's never horror just for the sake of horror. Instead, these transformations are tied to the character's actions and the film's broader themes. Two, they make the stakes feel more tangible. It's one thing to talk about greed, corruption, and guilt, but it's a whole nother thing to see it play out on someone's body. The horror makes the abstract real, which forces both the characters and me and you to confront it. And three, they reflect reality. While the transformations are fantastical, their implications are deeply human. Losing yourself to greed, harming the environment, or letting guilt consume you, right? These are struggles that we all face in some way. Studio Ghibli's body horror, whether it's subtle or in your face, is always unforgettable. It does creep up on you, and it's usually wrapped in metaphors and deeper meanings. And it forces you to confront the darker aspects of the human experience. Whether it's Chihiro's parents turning into pigs, Nago's slimy tendrils, or Howl's monstrous transformation, these moments remind us that every action has consequences, and sometimes those consequences are written on our very bodies. The next time you watch a Ghibli film, look a little closer. Beneath the magic and the whimsy, there's a darker story that's usually being told. A story about the things that change us inside and out. I hope you like these video essays that I do on these weird and very niche horror topics. Click on the screen now to watch another one.